Now we all know how the Cataclysm is going to affect the world of Fire Force as we know it, but an even better question now is, how is it going to affect the characters in the story? What is going to happen to all of the characters once this Cataclysm finally ends, and the world is fully merged with Adala? Or if you've been keeping up with the Fire Force videos, swallowed in madness? The first and most obvious answer would be the death of humanity in the world as we know it. And through this death, the world will be reborn. Everything that we all currently know as Fire Force will be gone, and it will be dead. Nothing will be the same, and all of your favorite characters will die. Shinra, Arthur, Iris, Maki, Obi, and Hinawa, all of your favorite characters will never be the same again, because they will all die and be lost to madness. Is something bad going to happen because of this madness wavelength? That's the problem right there. Every person has some madness inside them, however small that amount may be. Especially so in my case. Azura's madness wavelength prods and incites the madness lying deep within the human soul. And madness is contagious. There can be no doubt about that. The very moment when Azura was resurrected, I definitely felt the madness then. An infection of madness. And you say that can happen inside anyone? No. I think a very devout clergyman such as Justin Kun here, for example, is less likely to be affected. Furthermore, it seems inconceivable that a sudden outbreak of madness in the general human populace would take place, at least at the present state. If I may ask, what problems could this madness cause? Maybe awakening the evil inside people or boasting its hold over them. Right again, you have an inviolable talent for judging a person's character and having flashes of insight, don't you? I'd love to dissect you. Now before we continue in this video, I gotta ask you guys something. Does this all sound familiar? Is that the pre-cataclysm world? The past we'd always expected. Well, a Tokyo like ours, filled with people like us, living lives like ours, just without spontaneous human combustion. That was all. Wait, those creatures look like humans. I couldn't look away from the world before me. An overwhelming dread consumed me, shredding away the blind beliefs I assumed were sanity. I couldn't suppress the powerful sense of nausea. It was like something had possessed me, as I fought to keep the madness in check. In this scene, Shinra has been completely consumed by madness. And while consumed by it, he's been a completely different person, dyeing his hair, piercing his ears, and even getting tattoos. To put it simply, it was like he had a late onset period of teenage rebellion. Another personality was living his life without him knowing it. And as Arthur would describe him, cold-blooded, cruel, and violent. A waste of space, and nobody knew what to do with him. Now the big question is, why exactly did this happen? The basic answer would be that Shinra saw the world before spontaneous human combustion and went insane. That is true, but there's more information on this. Everyone has madness inside of them, and some have more madness than others. Just like how Azura's madness wavelength prods and incites the madness lying deep within the human soul. This traumatic incident that Shinra went through also prodded and incited the madness lying deep within him. And this is what awoke his evil side, and allowed it to take over his body. And this evil side, or evil version of you, is known as your doppelganger. This is the version of you that's consumed by madness, the mad version of you, the devil side of you. Shinra can either be a hero or a demon when he is lost to madness. And this would be no different than when Soul was lost to madness, when the black blood prodded and incited the madness inside of him. And the demon inside of his head was telling Soul to let his demon side loose, to call up the demon inside of himself, and let the madness take full control of his body. And this would be no different than Shinra losing himself to madness as the devil side of him controls his body. Shinra and Soul experienced the same thing. Both of their devil sides took over their bodies when they were lost to madness. Their doppelgangers, for a brief moment of time, controlled both of their bodies while they were lost to madness. And I have a feeling that this demon that kept trying to get Soul to lose himself to madness will be appearing in Fire Force. And he'll be trying to convince Shinra, just like how he is convincing Soul, to lose himself to madness and let his demon side loose. It might not be the exact demon. After all, this demon is inside of Soul's head. But we might be getting something similar for Shinra. Because whether or not Shinra is a demon or a hero is a major plot point in this story. So something has to give him the push to become a demon if that's what's going to happen in the story. It might be safe to assume that Amaterasu is going to play this role in the story, but I don't think that is the case. After all, Shinra's demon side rejects her, and she had nothing to do with Shinra's current possession by his doppelganger. So there has to be something internally that's causing Shinra to act this way. The teeter-totter between hero and villain. The struggle of accepting oneself. And this would be no different than when Soul was rejecting the Evans part of his name. When the cataclysm finally happens, and when Adala finally collapses on Earth, I can guarantee you we'll be seeing more of that devil side of Shinra. But not only this, we'll be seeing the demon sides of other characters. After all, Benimaru's doppelganger was teased. And what makes this so special is that even when a doppelganger does not take over your body, they can still exist. For example, someone like Benimaru would not be lost to madness, but his doppelganger could still appear and he'd have to fight him. Similar to how Conro had to fight his own doppelganger. So doppelgangers can either possess your body through madness, or they can just appear on the earth. And this is really deep because the way Okubo conveys this, because when someone is insane or crazy, it's almost as if they're more susceptible to get possessed by a demon, which would be their doppelganger. But it doesn't necessarily have to be their doppelganger, because Shinra got possessed by Amaterasu. So these demons will try to possess you when you lose your sanity. Because when you are mad, you do not fear anything, and you deny your own soul as well as your opponents. And when you deny your own soul, how is it possible for you to have any will over your own body? And this is how the doppelgangers are able to possess you. But this will not work for everybody. As Stein said, those who have a strong faith in God are less likely to be affected, as he uses Justin as an example because of his strong faith towards Shinigami. So those who have a strong sense of faith and are firm believers in Shinigami will not be affected by the Kishin's madness, and are less likely to be possessed by their doppelgangers. Now we're going to be getting into a little more of the spoiler territory in terms of Soul Eater. And with that being said, I'm going to start dropping a bomb. If you guys did not know this already, Justin was actually a worshipper of the Kishin. Just like every single character in Fire Force, they all worship the Kishin. So they are all susceptible to madness. When you compare the robes of the Fire Force and compare them to Justin's, the similarities are absolutely staggering. Because these robes signify that they are worshipping the same god. Everyone who has worshipped the sun god is no different than Justin, because they all worship the Kishin's madness. So more or less, everybody who worships the sun god or worships the Kishin will be possessed by their doppelgangers once Adala finally merges. Meaning that the characters that worship the sun god as we know them will die and be possessed by their doppelgangers. But those who have a strong faith in God, or those who have a strong faith in Benimaru, are less likely to be susceptible to this possession. The people of Asakusa will not be affected by this. The Kishin planned all of this, so that all of the people of Japan would be able to get possessed by their doppelgangers. But what he did not take into account was the fact that Asakusa exists, and they worship their own god, which is Benimaru. And the people of Asakusa will be less likely to lose themselves to madness because of their faith in him. In a weird way, it's almost as if Benimaru is like death. He is Shinigami, and he'll have to take down the Kishin, which is the sun god, because he'll be one of the very few people who won't be affected by madness. And his doppelganger won't be able to possess his body. But that does not mean this is going to be easy. After all, he's going to have to fight his own doppelganger. Benimaru and the people of Asakusa will be Japan's last hope in fighting the Kishin back. They're gonna have to fight everybody that is possessed by their doppelgangers or their demon selves. And they're going to have to fight the doppelgangers even when they aren't possessing a body. It's almost hopeless, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.